Hello everyone, my name is Ben and welcome back to PASSTHEauxCORD, a channel where my walls look really weird without all the records on it. It's kind of this uncanny valley thing where I got all the hooks still but none of the records on them. Really weird. I don't know what else to say about it. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my record collection, and that's why there's nothing on the walls, I suppose, as you would expect. This has been requested a couple times, and I suppose that's probably because all of my videos have the background of a bunch of LPs as well as my actual setup, just kind of in this general area behind me. And I've been thinking about doing this video too for pretty much as long as I've been doing the channel again, because I get to share some of the music that I really love enough to buy it in a physical medium that I haven't talked about on the channel before, and I also get to share and show to you what I thought was worth getting on wax since I started the channel, what has kind of proved the test of time over the last few months for me. And that's not to say that this is everything that's proved to be something I still like and return to since I've covered it on the channel. Of course, that would be a lot of albums, but I don't exactly have everything I love just in general either. That would probably be thousands and we'd be here all day. And if you're noticing it's been a lot of newer stuff from the last 2 years, that's because it's been kind of in my headspace recently, you know. I'm thinking about newer stuff because that's what came out most recently, and I've been kind of on a binge since quarantine started because I'm always looking at the collection thinking I gotta add more to it. Of course, I'm sure anybody else who collects records can say the same. But with all that being said, let's get straight into it. So I'm going to show you my setup first here, rocking the AT-LP 120 from Audio-Technica. I've had a really good time with this turntable, as do most people. It's a pretty popular one on the market in most people's setups at this point. It's pretty much the most common and popular record player out there, outside of maybe the LP60, which is actually what I upgraded from. It's really nice to have something that's a little bit more precise, just kind of works a little bit better, gets all of the best sound you really can at still an affordable price, a non-enthusiast grade price, I guess you could say. I also upgraded the head shell and cartridge to the Ortophon 2M Red just to get a little bit extra sound out of it from the standard cartridge. The speakers are Edifier 1280T. I picked these ones up specifically because I didn't want to pick up an amp. They have an amp built into the side of the speaker, which is really nice. Use that a lot. It all comes out as having the right pieces of the turntable this way because it has a preamp built in and the speakers have an amp built in. So we're pretty much all set to go in that department of things. This is what I use to clean because I spend a lot of money on cleaning my records apparently. And just as a general rule of thumb, I just picked this one up here, but these outer sleeves I get from a record store that makes them independently. I will go ahead and drop a link for that down in the description. And as any enthusiast would agree, MoFi sleeves are the bomb. And so that's what it's looking like on all of my records as far as storage. So once we actually get into the records here, which we're about to do, I'm going to show you if it's colored. If not, you can just assume it's black. You know what a black record looks like already. And everything that I pull out, I'm going to say a little bit of something about. So we're going to kick it off first with the 45s though. I've just got a couple of these. It's been a recent thing that I have became enamored with. First one up is Heartless and Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. Of course you've heard this song by now. If you haven't, you are living under a stone. I am legitimately impressed. But they are two of my favorite singles of the year, and it comes on this really nice gold on at least this particular one. There are a bunch of different artworks you can get for this same single. I really like mine a lot. I'm not gonna try to collect them all because that would be a few $100s. Next up, my only pickup that I managed to score from the last record store day is Heaven by Bayside, and it comes on this super pretty bright orange vinyl. I listened to Bayside's album when it came out last year. For the most part, I don't really come back to the entire album all that often, but I do come back to certain songs from it. Heaven was definitely one of them, so I definitely had to scoop this up. Next up, we got a crowd pleaser here with I Bet You Look Good on the Dance Floor by Arctic Monkeys. You already know what's up. And this is from the first record store day this year with Denzel Curry, Bulls on Parade, as well of course, Eye Against Eye on the B-side. Both really cool covers, and especially really cool for someone who's known as a rapper to be covering. Really cool cover on here as well. I like that quite a lot. And yeah, those four are it for the 45s. Hope to get more soon. And with all that being said, I'm not sure if I said it before, but we're going alphabetical by artist, starting with 100 gecs. and the Tree of Clues. This is repping what they call a ghostly green, at least on the website side of things, and it looks like it has little ghosts on it if you kind of squint at it. I've got a whole review out on that, so if you're interested, you already know what I think of that record from Gex. But if you don't, I fucking love their shit. It's either a kind of love it or hate it scenario with their music from everything I've seen so far, but I'm definitely on the love it side of things. I saw them live, and that's when it absolutely clicked for me before. I mean, I liked everything before that point, but when I saw them open for Brockhampton, that was absolutely wild. I mean, such a good night. And that's a prime example of something from recent times that I don't have that I do still really love. Their first project, the non-remix album, I guess you can say, and that's because the repress is on pre-order still. Next up, we have easily my favorite project from the 1975, called A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships. I am the only person who thinks this is a perfect 10 out of 10. This album means a fucking lot to me, and honestly, I could go on for an entire video about it, but it's on clear, 180 gram, which is super cool. That's like a very good pairing of things. I mean, I know it's probably a myth, but I've heard clear vinyl sounds better. In my personal experience, it's honestly true. And of course, the same can be said about 180 gram, even though that's more like factually evident. It is also on a 2 LP, which makes it sound better, but it's kind of a pain in the ass, so I have mixed feelings. You got Tupac with Me Against the World. Easily my favorite Tupac project, even if that's kind of a warm take. Fuck the World is definitely my favorite Tupac song. Absolutely love that. That's a fucking banger right there. And it's one of many from Tupac, and an absolute classic, of course, as well. And now that we're on to words and not numbers, we got A Tribe Called Quest with Midnight Marauders. Some of you may have seen this one before outside of it being in the background, which I think it was before, because this was part of my 2-week No Old Music Challenge, if you remember that from a little while back. You can always go check out that video, of course, it'll be linked below. I'll go ahead and link that. But this is one of the things that I allowed myself to listen to because I actually hadn't heard it before. I just picked up the vinyl without ever hearing it, which is what I do sometimes. It's kind of the best way to go about hearing a record that you know is going to be pretty good. I was right, it's pretty good. One of the few things keeping me sane during that time in my life. And next up, here's one that I picked up for a really good price last time I was record shopping, and that is All Time Low with Future Hearts. It's on a super pretty light blue. Love this color. This album makes me super nostalgic, and I absolutely love it for that reason. I mean, 2015 wasn't that long ago, but when you're 18 years old, 5 years is quite a while, and really all pop punk makes me nostalgic anyways, even if it was made this year, and my Xbox is still making fucking noises. And we have Crowd Pleaser A, Crowd Pleaser B. Love both of these albums a whole lot. I'm gonna be totally honest with you, Favorite Worst Nightmare actually sees a lot less play, which is not something I expected to do, but it really is. I just feel like jamming out so often recently. Next up is something really interesting. So there's this pressing company that presses albums from really small underground acts. They get voted in, and then every month they press somebody else's album. I'm not sure the name of the site again. I've got 3 records from this because they did this like warehouse clean out sale where each one was like $10 or something. This is one of the ones that I picked up. It's Berkwin and Vienna Diane. Hadn't heard this before. Thought it was a great deal though, so I mean, hey. And it's a really chill record. It's kind of soulful and just super relaxed. I don't know. I like to turn it on to just kind of vibe. It's a good vibe album. And I'll definitely link the Bandcamps or whatever platform they end up being on of all of these super underground acts because I think they're totally worth checking out. This being one of them. Black Midi with Schaugenheim is my favorite album of last year. I'm going to tell you a brief story here. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, a tirade if you will. I was sitting in class listening to this, which if you're in school, don't do that, kids. That's bad. Or maybe do. I don't really give a shit. I was just kind of drifting off, as you know you do in boring classes. I was getting fucking visuals like I was on psychedelics from this thing. It was actually wild. The track Speedway is the one that absolutely just blew my fucking mind in that way. There's nothing quite like this album, and I'm not going to do it any justice by sitting here and describing it to you, so I'm not going to. Boston Manor with Welcome to the Neighborhood. Totally underrated record. One of my favorite rock records of the last few years, and maybe that's because I'm a Linkin Park fanboy. It's on this half black, half red vinyl. Well, at least kind of half and half. It's like The black bleeds into it a little bit. If you're really into some of that music, like Linkin Park, they're kind of the biggest band that I could kind of make that contribution to, then you will absolutely love Boston Manor. It's like kind of dark sounding and gritty, but it still has like a pop rock feel to it. It's really catchy. They make a lot of good music like that, and that's why I picked up the album that I recently reviewed from them called Glue. It didn't live up to Welcome to the Neighborhood, for me at least, but still a good record, and it's on kind of a cool pressing again. If I can get it out of here, really like sticking to sleeve. As you can see, I'm not touching it. That's not what I'm doing before anybody calls me out. It's got some black, some blue, pretty cool stuff. It doesn't sound as good as the other one, which was kind of a shame, but is what it is. Yeah, this has songs that I think were totally forgettable, but okay anyways, and some of the best songs ever from them, including The Closer and Brand New Kids. Those are the two best songs from them, in my humble opinion. Bright Eyes with Down in the Weeds, Where the World Once Was. I was at the record store, I'd recently listened to this, and I'm like, I absolutely may as well, because this is totally an album that you can either listen to very intently or throw on in the background. It works in either setting. This is a really good relaxation album, and a really good album to have a cry to as well. Another album that I said that about is Phoebe Bridgers' new album, which I don't have in here, and I would absolutely love to. So hopefully that'll happen soon. Next up, we got Bring Me the Horizon with Sempiternal. This is something I've liked for years now. One of the albums that definitely got me into metal. Of course, you can see it's on a gold vinyl here, matching the cover. Definitely one of my favorite things to come out of metalcore in general, as well as the album that came before this one, which I don't own for whatever reason. I was always going to pick up that box set, that I never did. Either way, just huge sounding tracks on that album, and that's one of the best things about it. It's really a good way to get some of your teenage angst out, no matter how old you are. Brockhampton with Iridescence, one of the two albums that they have pressed on vinyl, and it sounds absolutely amazing on this clear vinyl right here. I love Brockhampton. I love pretty much everything they've done. This is actually my least favorite project from them, but it's still like an 8 if I was gonna rate it. I already know about Brockhampton though, and of course I do too with Ginger. This one became super fucking rare right after it came out because it was like a limited time offer thing. I could have had my name in the little booklet thing, but I didn't put my real name, and apparently they didn't like what I did put. Kind of fucking lame because it wasn't anything terribly explicit. It was just kind of funny. Either way, clear red vinyl, kind of cool, kind of cool. And this is such a good album. Like really. It's an underrated pick from them. I don't know how this gets to be anybody's least favorite Brockhampton album when it's clearly the best one. Childish Gambino with Awaken My Love. Again, this is one that I picked out just at the store and decided to hear it for the first time on vinyl. I realized that there is a much better pressing that exists than this one that I picked up for like 15 bucks, but it sounded really good enough for me. And it was one of the first times I ever heard Childish Gambino, so can't complain. It's a really good record by him. Totally different than anything else I've heard from anyone. Code Orange with Underneath, the new album. This one, I made sure I specifically ordered one color variant that they had, and it barely looks different than anything else. I'm gonna have like a B-roll going on where I hold it up to the window, but it's like a galaxy kind of color scheme going on, but you can only see it when you hold it up to the light, which means that it doesn't look like anything when it's on the turntable. That kind of blows, but this album's really good, luckily speaking, so that's fucking cool. That was actually my first review on the channel, and barely anybody even knows about it. Moving on to the Death Grips collection. This is a legitimate pressing. It's got the little thing right there. Paid way too much for this. Yes. Absolutely love it. Yes. Don't regret a thing. This is my cat. I love him very much. And he's wiggling a lot. The Money Store sounds absolutely amazing on vinyl. And No Love Deep Web, which I can't bring myself to get out of the sleeve, but even if I could, I couldn't show you on camera. This one you've seen in the background a lot because I think the album cover is super cool, and it's also one of my favorite albums of all time. Since it's on a 2LP, it's got enough space to sound really good, and it makes sense to be on a 2LP because it's technically two albums put together. Just such a nice pressing. Really love this. I mean, again, I had to pay hiked up prices because it's hard to find, but super cool. Bottomless Pit Another awesome one from them. And Year of the Snitch. An absolute wall hanger right here. I mean, how can you say differently? Yeah, and if you want to see more on Death Grips, I've got a discography ranking and review on all of their albums. So you can see me talk more about all of those and more. I still don't have government plates. That's next on the list. Got a super duper thrifty find with Deep Purple, Perfect Strangers. This is about the thriftiest find you could ever find, and it's got some super duper bad fucking ringwear to match the super duper thriftiness of it. Dr. Dre with The Chronic, hip hop classic. Can't complain. It's there. Marijuana. And another complicated one here with the Slim Shady LP. Love this album. I love it a lot, and I spin it regularly because it sounds good enough. But the surface noise is absolutely ridiculous. And the color is also kind of shitty. Same situation as Underneath by Code Orange here. I mean, you can't even see it at all when I hold it up. Again, there's going to be some B-roll right now, so you can see what it's supposed to look like. It's supposed to be purple. But when I ordered it from the site that I ordered it from, it looked so fucking vibrant, and I was like, wow, absolutely need this press. Either way, I can't be super bitter about it because Slim Shady LP. Still easily Eminem's best project, in my humble opinion. Fall Out Boy, first of 2 albums I have from them, and it is the exact same thing you've seen a couple times by now. It's this half black, half red. I'm not sure. Never mind. You haven't seen the other one, but it's pretty much the exact same as that Boston Manor one. So really, if you want to see it better than in the sleeve, it's already there. Super nostalgic for this album. It's a classic in pop punk. It's pretty much the quintessential pop punk album. Everybody knows it by now. And from Fall Out Boy, we also have Folie à Deux, which happens to be my favorite record from them. This is a 2 LP with 2 different colors. You've got a kind of goldish yellow clear here, and a transparent red as well. And this is actually the first one. So I showed you in the wrong order. As I already said, Fall Out Boy is a band that I'm super nostalgic for. One of the first bands I ever liked, right up there with Linkin Park in that way. Got one of the most critically acclaimed records of this year, Fiona Apple's new album, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Of course, I reviewed this one rather positively, enjoyed this record a lot, so did just about everybody else. Next up here, got Cosmogramma by Flying Lotus. Flying Lotus is honestly one of the only artists that makes only instrumental music that I can really get into, and I really like that about his music in particular. I think that it's really well produced and really creative, unique as well, so that's really cool. Next up, it's The Garden with Kiss My Super Bowl Ring. Kind of have a similar appreciation for this album that I do with 100 Gex and actually the other albums by The Garden as well. It's on the super cool clear green. Really just fits the dingy aesthetic of it. The back of this really just illustrates exactly what I mean when I say that. This is something here, man. Not that the front cover doesn't. This is kind of a fun one right here. The only picture disc I own because they generally have lower quality sound, and that is with Glass Animals and Denzel Curry. This is the single Tokyo Drifting. It's a 45 RPM single. You've got the actual song on this half, the instrumental on the back half, and it says sniff a whole bunch of times, and it looks extremely trippy on the turntable. I've already said that that's easily my favorite track off of that album, and I stand by that. Absolutely is. Next up, we got Green Day with American Idiot. This is a classic. Again, pop punk record, but oldie but a goodie at this point. It's a 2 LP. Sounds really great. Good stuff. HMLTD with West of Eden. I'm going to say I love this record, and I'm not going to say anything else about it. Other than it's on a really nice to look at, like just bright red. Really love it. Next up, another super duper thrifty find. This is James Taylor with Flag. Didn't know what this album was, even though it sold like a fucking quadrillion copies at this point. Track Brother Trucker on here is really funny, and it has became an inside joke with my friend and I when we first listened to this after we went to the local used record place. Next, I actually have 2 pressings of No Dream by Jeff Rosenstock. One of my favorite kind of like indie projects of the year, and I actually have a very distinct reason for why I picked up 2 of these. So the first one here, this is the one that I play, and it is the nicest color. Like, that is just beautiful. I mean, what else is there to say about it, really? It's like semi-transparent. I mean, I don't know if you can see that at all, but it's just such a pretty color. And my other pressing, this one right here, is actually a glow-in-the-dark one, and it's basically just kind of this like yellowish clear. You can't really see much, but I'm gonna add some footage here of when it's glowing because that looks pretty sick. Now, another thing that glow-in-the-dark records are notorious for is not sounding the greatest. So that's why this one is the one you see on the wall behind me. I mean, I was totally fine with taking the opportunity to support Jeff twice. I love the novelty of owning a glow-in-the-dark vinyl, and this record is just really good in general, but the main thing about this is that it is one of my favorite album covers ever. Look at this. It's absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I love having this one on the wall anyways. Julian Casablanca, Phrases for the Young. This one grew on me a little bit, and I got a really good deal. So that's why it ended up here. Not that I didn't like it before, that is. You know, Kendrick Lamar with Good Kid, Mad City. My favorite album from him. Kind of a controversial take, I know. Got a lot of songs on here that I have listened to for a very long time. This album definitely helped me get into rap when I was only really listening to rock music at the time. And we have To Pimp a Butterfly as well. Fantastic album, lives up to its legendary status. It's just not my favorite from him. We've got Kids See Ghosts, another one of my favorite covers of all time. And pretty much every song has grown on me just ever so slightly since I gave it controversially a 7. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard with the exact same record that you've seen twice already. This one is pretty much the most clear-cut half and half out of the bunch. I don't really know what's with Artisan doing the half red, half black. With all of them, it's never even been an intentional thing that I ended up with that. It just kind of happened that way. And now something that I've alluded to a little while, the Linkin Park collection. Got Hybrid Theory, the debut. This should be in everyone's collection. If it's not, you're doing something wrong. It's an essential. It's an essential, and I might be obsessive. Reanimation here, the remix album of Hybrid Theory. My personal favorite remix album of all time. Really interesting with this one is I first got it. I took it out. You know, I was about to play it. The records were extremely thin. They're like paper thin. So, I mean, I guess if you're going to get this, don't order it. But besides that, I was thinking, shit, they're really thin. It's probably not going to sound good. Genuinely some of the best music I've heard mastered on vinyl. It was ridiculously good sounding. It's so crystal clear. The bass is good. It's fucking bonkers how good that sounds. Got Meteora. This pressing has became a little bit rare, even though I just bought it in a fucking Barnes & Noble like 3 years ago or something. Favorite album of all time, I guess you can say. Look, I know from an objective standpoint, Meteora does not hold up against a lot of the things that are out there, but I will forever credit this as the album that got me into music. So therefore, it'll always be my favorite. Do I even return to it on a regular basis right now? Not really. It's not in heavy rotation for me, but the beauty of it is that it will always hold a special place to me. We have Minutes to Midnight here as well. This one's on 180 gram, which is the far harder to find pressing of this, so I'm very glad to have that around. But for those of you wondering, just in case you are, it doesn't sound any better. Living Things. Really like the alternate cover art as well on here. Very cool when that happens on a vinyl pressing. I just think it adds a little bit of character to it. And I am actually still missing a few. I don't know why I don't own The Hunting Party, especially because that's number 2 or 3 depending on the week in terms of being my favorite. Of course, if you guys do want to see a Linkin Park video of any capacity, do let me know in the comments because I know everything about the band at this point. We got Little Sims with Gray Area, her release last year. This was the first thing I heard from her. Thought it was particularly good. And what is also particularly good is this bright white pure, clean looking vinyl. So cool. I've never seen one that's white, and I guess maybe it's just cool because it's like the polar opposite of what a record usually looks like. They're usually all black. It's all white here. Does seem like kind of a missed opportunity to make it gray, considering that's in the title, but whatever works for you. My Chemical Romance with The Black Parade will forever, again, be one of my favorites. And I actually do think this one holds up a little bit better to a lot of things than Meteora does, even though, legitimately speaking, I think they're both fantastic records. One of the best concept albums out there. This is an album called Neil's Generator by Mordecai. It's some post-punk. I had never heard of the band. I actually got them mixed up with what you end up finding when you look up the band, which is Mordecai with an H. And I hadn't heard this, but it was like $2 where I was looking, and I'm like, that cover art's kind of cool. You got all this like graffiti going on. Kind of neat. They're totally undiscovered from what I can tell. But yeah, it's not my thing. I mean, I've expressed my view on most post-punk at this point, and I feel like I don't really need to any further than I already have. But, you know, still, for what it is, cool. Kind of an underground band a little bit there. NWA with Straight Outta Compton, because of course I just gotta rack up all of the hip-hop classic essentials in that vein that is. And it's on a absolutely beautiful red pressing again. Somewhat similar to the HMLTD one that I already showed you, but not as transparent. That one had a slight bit of transparency to it, whereas this one's just that bright cherry red. Pretty much the color of the font on here in real life when you put them side by side, and that is super cool. Got Nas with Illmatic. It has the deluxe edition cover. It doesn't have the deluxe edition songs. I will forever not know why. Sounds great. Probably my favorite hip-hop album of all time. I heard it the first time like a month ago, and I can genuinely say that I will hear it hundreds and hundreds of more times on top of it. Neutral Milk Hotel with In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. The internet has told you about this album many times before, so I probably don't need to. It's 180 gram and it sounds perfect. It actually sounds absolutely perfect. There is not a single flaw in how this sounds. When compared to a digital version, it's so much, like, genuinely better. Yeah, might be my best pressing of anything, which is actually insane because you can get it super cheap. Smash by The Offspring. This is another record that, I mean, is a classic for me because I grew up with it very much so. Got that piss yellow vinyl. One time somebody said that, I'll never unhear it. So yeah, does look kind of cool. Anyways, when you take out the equation, maybe you can call it apple juice instead. But either way, I have no idea how good this album is. I'll never be able to tell for sure because I'm very nostalgic for it. This is one that I wouldn't have picked up in the modern day and age, but I have it nonetheless. It's Death of a Bachelor by Panic! At the Disco. Panic! At the Disco has not held up for me in any way. Similar to how Fall Out Boy has, which sounds really weird because they've pretty much became the same band at this point. Yeah, I still like the album though. It's got some really catchy tunes on. Parkway Drive with Killing with a Smile, which is another one of those metalcore albums that I kind of took with me from my metalcore phase that I had in early high school. I still really like this record, but this pressing is so bad. I don't know, I just remember the first time I spun this, all sounds super distorted. Sounds super gross. Don't know why. At least it looks kind of cool on the wall, I guess. Ire by the same band is another one by them that I really like. These are my two favorites easily. I like the debut and Ire the best by far. I think their last project was pretty decent, but it really did not live up to Ire at all. Outside of the song Wishing, that's the only one I really remember taking away from that one with any kind of significance, I guess. It's a really good song. You got Patrick Moraz with an album that looks exactly like this. I've listened to it once. I ended up just kind of finding it one day. It wasn't great. Maybe it would grow on me if I listened to it a few more times. Just wanted to give it a spin once. It's fine. Cover art's kind of cool. Yeah. Fizz 6 with The Moment. This guy's been at it a long time, and he's still very underground. I don't think he really gets the appreciation that he deserves. This was another one that was from that site that helps out underground creators, just like indie creators, I guess. This is a pretty nice rap album, has some very poppy tendencies at times. It really kind of falls into some of the pop rap of its time, but I still think there's some good lyricism on here, definitely some good beats for sure, and I really like the way the vinyl itself looks. That half red, half white. I'm just happy it's not another half red, half black on it. You got too many of those. The Police with Synchronicity, another thrifty find that I thrifted away at. Being like 30 years old, I do believe, this sounded really good on the turntable. You know, you're expecting some scratches, some pops, and some crackles. You're always going to be expecting that. Did not occur. Like, only a couple, maybe, but it sounded really good still. I can tell it didn't get played much, but I will be playing it much because this is easily my favorite record by The Police. Absolute classic. And we got the Protomartyr, the EP that they put out. I don't know, just a cool little thing that I picked up. It doesn't have their best songs on it by any means, but I don't know, it's 45 RPM. That's kind of weird and unique. I really like the cover art. And at the end of the day, it's Protomartyr, so everything they've put out is really good. Then we have The Donkey. Ultimate Success Today gave this a very positive, glowing review earlier this year. Still really like it. One of the most dark and obscure things to come out this year. Kind of an album that just really makes you think kind of fucked up for a little while, but one that's really good and innovative nonetheless. I really like the fucking spindle hole is the donkey's pupil. It's just as morbid as the rest of this album. Really some freaky stuff on there. Sawayama by Rina Sawayama, another album that came out this year that I was very, very fond of, and I'm still very, very fond of. It has definitely held up. I really love the consistency on this record. Every song is good, and then it just comes to such an epic conclusion at the end. There's so much that goes on here, and I love it for that. She's really an innovator in the field. And yeah, you got this kind of gold color going on. It's like a white gold almost. It's like bordering on very cool stuff. And apparently a lot of artists that I liked this year come in alphabetical order, because I have the RTJ4 kind of box set thing going on here, the 4 LP. You've got 2 LPs for the standard album, both on like a clear pink that matches, of course, the cover very well. Super nice. It says 1, it says 2. I'm not going to get out the other one right now, but it says 3 and 4 as well, with little hand signs. That's pretty cool. They really put some effort into this vinyl pressing, and Run the Jewels has some other really cool stuff that I want to get my hands on as far as vinyl goes. And yet another gold pressing of something, but interesting thing about it is it's all like wavy in the middle. I want to say there's like some gold foil in here or something, and then they made the record clear around that. But what I was going to say about this is that this is actually the instrumentals, so I thought that was really interesting. Only problem is, I kind of wish it came in 2 separate things so I could actually sleeve this up. There's not sleeves in existence that are going to fit on this. Maybe there is, and I don't know about them. I'm not really entirely sure, but it's kind of fine either way because I can always open it up and see this super cool image. Next up, here's one that you're not going to see in anybody else's collection, but is one of my most prized ones in it. Sea of Lettuce with photos. I have probably spun this hundreds of times at this point. They're super underground. Once again, it was the 3rd one of those indie record pressings. The name of the website is still escaping me, and it's really bugging me. But yeah, this time I put this one on. It was solid gold. I mean, I knew I was getting into something good when you call yourself Sea of Lettuce and you have this bright green pressing. Got good things coming for it. You can't really see the marbling super well here, but for those of you who like Mac DeMarco, and I know there are some in the audience, even though there's less than I thought there would be, this is absolutely your bag. It's got a totally different character and personality than Mac DeMarco though, and one that I absolutely love. That is my go-to chill record, and it's kind of my little secret up until this point. So go check them out. Give them some support. I'm linking their Bandcamp. Spoon with Ga 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 Ga. Fun record to turn on. Good rock record. Got some catchy tunes on there. I reacted to that one on here, and it's grown on me a little bit even since that one. We have Is This It, which is my first like successful video. You know, I love it for that reason. I'm always going to love this album. And then we have Angles, one of the coolest covers out there. This one's always on my wall, unless I'm playing it, which does happen quite often. It has some of the best Strokes songs on it, Undercover of Darkness being one of my favorites. Seriously, that song hits me the same way as it always did when I first heard it. Next, we've got one that comes in extremely strange packaging with the new Abnormal. I have the CD as well, and the CD has this like slip case where the jewel case just slides out of there. That's a poster in there, what you're seeing. The cover is a poster. So it essentially doesn't have something that slips out of the, very shiny, so you can't really see it that well, the outer, like, the new Abnormal, like, text thing. And that's kind of disappointing because I really like the artwork to this album, and I effectively cannot hang it up without big font all over it. It's thick as a bitch, though, which is always good, and it sounds amazing. So as far as actually playing the record, absolutely peachy. But as far as this little like plastic folder sleeve thing it comes in, and it not having a real cover or something I can really hang up without big font all over it, not so much. System of a Down with Toxicity, the best arguably by this band, and definitely an album that I am nostalgic for and one that I grew up with as well. One of my favorite rock records out there for sure. Got Tame Impala with Current. I gave this a 10 out of 10 on here. You guys know I love this project. I spin this a lot. It's a very good project. And I searched around for a good pressing. Very glad I did, because this one is very good. And the other Tame Impala album that I like in the form of the Slow Rush. And you already know that I don't keep the outer sleeves on my records. It's better to use some kind of replacement than the regular paper ones they come with, because you don't really know what was going on in the factory. But record sleeves themselves on this look really cool. This is one of them. And then here's the other one. Really like those. Kind of a shame I'll probably never see them after this video. I wasn't aware I was getting a colored pressing when I picked this up, but I was. And it's a super weird, I mean, it's a 2 LP. They both look the same though. It's a super weird choice considering the cover. It's just this dark green, like a forest green. I mean, you can kind of see it, but it also kind of just looks black at certain angles. It's a weird choice for a record. I don't know. I kind of like it. It's kind of smooth to look at, but I have no idea why you've got like a bright red cover and you don't have that going on in any capacity with the actual record itself. Next up, you got Travis Scott here with Astroworld. I mean, I knew it was a good album going into it, but this is another one that I just kind of picked up one day. I was at a record store and I felt pressured to buy something just because I was there and I had to, and I saw that and I'm like, all right, well, probably gonna be good. Haven't heard it, but hey, it has good things behind the name. It's all right. It's definitely decent. 21 Pilots is a band that I feel like I've grown out of in some ways. I still really like a lot of their music, and that reason is why I have all 3 of their records. I really love Trench. Trench is still a really, really great album. Blurry Face does not hold up like that though, but it still has a lot of bops on it, all right? It's got a lot of really great tracks. Legitimately speaking, there are many, many vibes. What still may be my favorite is Vessel. The emotional appeal of this album comes across in a very genuine way to me, and it sounds clear. It sounds really good. Again, I don't know if clear actually sounds good or not. Better, that is. Saw them live not too long ago. Was a really good time. Still, really like the band. Not quite as much as I used to, though. Next up, moving on to another artist. Goblin by Tyler, the Creator, is the first one I have to show you here. I didn't know the Bastard existed on vinyl, or I would have gotten that a long time ago. Now, as soon as I have the funds, I will cop. Then we got Wolf, sporting the alternate artwork. Very cool stuff. I urge you to go ahead and look up this picture, and I'm not even going to hold it up there very long, because I think you should go look up that picture and find some little minute details that you may have missed. This comes on this pink clear vinyl. The other version of it was a opaque pink. Kind of wish I would have ended up with it, to be completely honest with you, but I still like the transparent pink on here. Wolf is another album that got me into hip-hop. I really love this album. It perfectly represents my angstiest of high school days, and I love it so much. Cherry Bomb, the album that I avoided for an extremely long time, and then didn't really like that much when I came to it. Of course, most of the reason that I got this one was to complete the Tyler, the Creator collection and never have any holes in it. However, this album has grown on me a little bit. I gotta say that much. And I was way too harsh on it because the ending tracks I still feel are the more boring parts, and that is, the end of it is when I put my rating out there. And that's not really fair because, I don't know, I don't like the ending that much, but it still has easily some of Tyler's best tracks. How are you gonna hear that song with Schoolboy Q? Tell me it's not. It's on some clear red. This is the Record Store Day pressing that just happened, which shows you that my binge is happening at a great time, because I can tell you this is probably going to be one of those Record Store Day pressings that ends up going for insane amounts of money, like government plates. And I can say all of the same things, including that it was from the last Record Store Day, not the last one, but the one in August, not September, about the instrumentals that we got right here, some alternate cover art, which is super duper cool, and a bright pink vinyl, this one being opaque, which is why I'm totally okay with the fact that my Wolf one is not, because I'd be kind of ended up with some duplicates here. But yeah, very nice looking. Some straight up cotton candy. I just want to bite into this, but of course we will not, because that would be destroying it. Of course, we got Flower Boy. This one's usually been in the background of my videos because I love the cover, and it's also one of my favorites by him, if not my favorite. It's kind of grown to be. Such a good record. There's not a bad song on there. It is all super solid tunes, as well as Igor. Still like Flower Boy better than Igor. Igor grew on me a lot, like First listen, I was like, this is mid. Past that, it grew on me so much. Yeah, I really, Tyler has became so unpredictable with his discography. It's crazy. We got The Weeknd, My Dear Melancholy EP. Yeah, this is another one from that same record store day. You know, I want to own his whole discography at some point, so this is definitely one piece of it, even if it is one of my not necessarily favorite projects by him by any means. And I picked up After Hours. This isn't worth the $40. I held off on this for so long, even though it's one of my favorite albums of the year, as you'd know if you saw my review to it, because of that super steep price tag. I have no idea why it costs that much, but the surface noise is kind of a bitch on it. So really wait until it becomes discounted, if it ever becomes discounted, because it's not worth spending that much on it. It does look really cool. We got this blood splatter on clear going on kind of thing here. Fits really well with kind of the aesthetic, and it sounds really good outside of the surface noise, so if it wasn't $40 fucking, I think I could see it. At least it doesn't have the deluxe edition cover though. I will give it that. Next up, we got a classic in the same realm as Fall Out Boy and all of that, in the form of the Blue Album by Weezer. Not really pop punk, but kinda, I guess. You know, this is a classic. And of course, Everything Will Be Alright in the End. One of their more recent albums that is actually really great, as well as the White Album. I really love the White Album too, I just haven't ever picked it up. And after this massive album delay and the fact that it's probably going to be really disappointing anyways, I don't even feel like supporting them at this point. Last, but certainly not least, Wise Blood with Titanic Rising. Another one of my favorites of last year. Just a beautiful record. There's so much on here that I just can't recommend enough. And yeah, wow, that's finally it. So this was quite the thing. If you guys like this video, I'll update you periodically, maybe a couple times a year, on the status of my collection, kind of show you some new ones. But we've been going for a long time now, so if you really sat through that whole thing, thank you very much. And drop a like on the video if you did like what you saw today. Subscribe to the channel for more music-related content coming your way. Hit the notification bell for that same thing as well. But that is just about going to wrap it up for this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Also, wouldn't be right if we didn't do this. Much better.